everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Phoebe and today I am filming a book unhaul. Some of these books I've had sat around for quite a while waiting to be unhauled. They've been off my shelves. Other ones I've taken off more recently, but these are the books that in the next week or so I'm getting them out my house. I'm over them for varying reasons. So I'm going to quickly start with three that I'm only getting rid of because I have multiple copies of. So we'll get the boring ones quickly out of the way, and then I'll get on to books that I've got kind of more specific reasons for. Third Hunger Games book, obsessed with this series, but I don't need two copies that are literally the same cover, so I'm going to donate that. Arrow by R.J. Anderson. This is a borderline like middle grade series about fairies. I probably won't even continue with it, but for some reason I've got two copies of the first book, so I'm getting rid of that. And then It Starts With Us by Colleen Hoover. I don't know why I've got multiple copies of this. I enjoyed it enough, but I'm not a massive Colleen Hoover fan. I don't know why I ever bought more than one copy of this book, but I did, so this one is going as well. I'm now going to move on to books that I either haven't read and I'm not going to for a specific reason, or there are quite a lot of books in here that I've DNF'd and I'm getting rid of them. So the first one, we'll do two together. So the first two are from the Shadowhunter series by Cassandra Clare. I'm getting rid of my copy of the first book. I have read this one, I've read the first two in the series, and I just don't really need this. I didn't love it anyway, but if I carry on with the series and decide I like it, I will just buy them in a box set because it's way cheaper than buying the books individually. So I'm going to get rid of this, and then if I want it again in the future, I'll just get it as part of a box set. And then the third one, I haven't read this one, as I said, I've only read the first two, and I hated the second one, so I don't know. I think I want to carry on at some point just to get to the later books that I feel like are going to be a lot better. But for now, I'm not carrying on with it anytime immediately, and if I do, again, either I'll buy the box set, or more likely, I know my library have all of these books, so I don't really need this sat on my shelf. If I owned the first three, and if they actually match, because this one's shiny and this one's matte, which is annoying. If they all match and I owned the first three, I would probably keep them. But I've got the first one and the third one, they don't even match. The next one is The President's Daughter by Bill Clinton and James Patterson. I haven't read this. I read the first book by this author duo, and I quite enjoyed it. I read it years and years ago now. Must be like 6-7 years ago, if it's even been out that long, but ages ago. Quite enjoyed it. I didn't know much about Bill Clinton or James Patterson though. I feel like James Patterson's quite famous, but I didn't really know anything about him. And I'm English, so I didn't really know anything about Bill either. I don't think either of these are particularly great guys, to be honest, upon getting older and hearing and learning more about them. James Patterson said a few months ago that white men don't get enough, specifically white men who write books, don't get enough opportunities because we're all focusing on diversity. Maybe it's because your books aren't that good. Maybe we're paying more attention to different authors because they're better than you. Have we ever considered that? I did read the first few pages of this ages ago and was bored stiff, and then learned that neither of these are particularly great guys, so I don't want to read it now anyway, so off that one goes to the charity shop. The next one is a DNF, and it is Moxie by Jennifer Matthew. Sorry, I don't know how to say that. I should have looked that up before, but I didn't know that. I didn't know how to say it. This isn't a bad book at all. It's just too young for me. I waited too long to read it. I've owned it for a long time. I'm 25 now, and this is a book about kind of feminism and growing up with a very misogynistic society and the impact that that has on teenage girls. And I think it's a really good book, but because I've lived through it, it wasn't giving me any new information, which is fine because this wasn't written for me. So yeah, this definitely isn't a bad book. I think this is great for young female audiences. It just wasn't giving me anything new because I'm 25, not like 14. So yeah, it's going, but hopefully to a new home where it will give something to the next person that reads it. The next one is a series, and it is the Pretty Little Liars series. This is books 2, 3 and 4. I do have the first book, don't know where it is, and don't really care to find it, because as soon as I do, it's going in the charity bag. I've read the first, well, I didn't even finish the first one. I DNF'd the first one. It was so cringy and just awful, like fat jokes everywhere, which aren't funny, by the way. Racism, just weirdo vibes, and I'm not interested. I love the Netflix show, but yeah, the books are just, you can tell the period that these were written in. Like, they are very, very of their time, and I'm just not interested in reading about things like that. I know the books are different and they have a slightly different plot, but I can't get past the writing, so these are going back to the charity shop, which is where I bought them from in the first place. The next one is Verite by Colleen Hoover. I haven't read this and I won't be. I bought this when her books were very, very popular, and I'm just not going to read it. It's just, it doesn't sound like my kind of thing anymore. It sounds just a bit gross. So, and I'm pretty sure I won't enjoy it, so I'm just not going to bother reading it. I'm just going to donate this one. Next is another DNF, and it is The Maidens by Alex Michaelides. I think is how you say it. Sorry if I'm wrong. I've read about 70 pages of this, and I just found it very kind of triggering, to be honest. So, yeah, not for me. It's a dark academia book, and it is very dark. So, if you are going to read this, a lot of people love it, so don't be put off by me, but definitely read the trigger warnings and see if it's something that would kind of work for you. The next one, similar reasons. I'm not even going to try and read this one. It's Girl in Pieces by Kathleen Glasgow. I didn't realise when I bought this how sad it was and how maybe triggering it would be to me, so I'm not going to try and read it because I just think it's probably going to be triggering for me. So yeah, I'm just going to donate this one. I can't even really tell you what it's about because as soon as I read the trigger warnings I was like, no. But it's about, I think it covers a lot of like mental illness, like really quite severe, very, very dark. So again, please look at the trigger warnings if it sounds interesting to you. I think it does have reasonably good reviews. I just know that this isn't a book that's going to be for me. The next three are all by the same author, and I have come to the conclusion in 2023 that this author just isn't for me. And unfortunately, it's Beth O'Leary. A lot of people love Beth O'Leary's books. Love that for you. I don't. So I read The Road Trip and finished it, but gave it like 1.5. I found it very boring. I can see kind of why people would like it. It's just not for me. I wasn't convinced by the romance. I found it quite boring. I don't tend to like road trips kind of things anyway a lot of the time, particularly in fantasy. I don't enjoy it. So yeah, this had some nice moments. It wasn't all bad. Yeah, didn't enjoy it. So that was strike number one. Then I tried to read The Switch, and this has quite a charming premise. It's about a girl who switches lives with her grandma because they're both in a bit of a rut. So they decide to swap lives, but I just found it a bit boring, so I DNF'd. Again, I can see why people would like this one. It's just not for me, and the writing just isn't for me. I just don't enjoy Beth O'Leary's writing. I also find that a lot of the heroines are very hung up on an ex at the beginning, which in some ways works, but the way that Beth O'Leary writes it, it just doesn't work for me. So unfortunately, another DNF. And then I tried to read The Flat Share. We kept going. I kept trying because everyone loves Beth O'Leary. But again, I'm pretty sure has he got a girlfriend or he's just broken up with her. One of them is in a relationship. One of them has just ended a relationship. The one who's just ended it, which I think is her, is just still, again, very obsessed with the ex. And then the male main character's in a relationship, and it wasn't a good setup for me. That doesn't tend to work for me. I'm not saying there's cheating or anything in this book. I don't think there is. But again, the writing just made it so that I couldn't get past that kind of premise. When I think of the premise of Beth O'Leary's books, they sound quite charming, but I think her writing just doesn't work. So any tiny kind of thing that I have that I don't like about the plot is made worse by the fact that I don't get on with her writing. So I think I've decided that she's just not for me. If she's for you, I love that for you, but she's just not for me. The next one is The Cornish Village School by Kitty Wilson. This is a Christmas romance. Can't remember. Oh yeah, this one is about a teaching assistant, and I believe, is he a priest? Oh, a vicar. Sorry, he's a vicar. And it's just like a small town romance. It was fine, but I'm never going to reread it, so I thought I would pass it on to someone that might enjoy it. This is a very classic, like, for context, I bought this from a garden centre, and I think that like sums it up quite well. I don't know how to describe it. Like, I don't know, just not my type of romance, but it wasn't a bad book, just not my particular taste. The next one is The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. I have read this a couple of times. I've annotated it one of the times that I read it for uni, and this is a very enlightening book. It's a really harrowing, heartbreaking book, and I'm not getting rid of it because I didn't like it. It's just that I've read it a couple of times. I'm probably not going to read it again. It's, yeah, basically a book about racism. Definitely look up the trigger warnings. There is a really big trigger warning here for child abuse. and sexual abuse, so please read the trigger warnings if you are interested in reading this. It's not a book that I kind of want on my shelves, because when I look at it, because it's just so sad. So I am going to pass it on, but it's not because I think it's a bad book at all. It's just I can't see myself rereading it. And the last one is a book that I read and hated, and it is The $1 Horses. This by Lauren St. John. I thought this was just going to be a cute little like middle grade borderline YA book about horses. I love horses. I thought it was just going to be like a fun reminiscent book. I didn't expect it to be groundbreaking. I just thought it'd be like a nice throwback to the little horsey books I used to read when I was younger, and it was crap. I hated it. I found it very offensive to multiple minority groups. Yeah, just not for me. It was about this horse that they buy for £1 and then like produce the horse basically. So the horse bits were fine, but it was everything else that I hated about this book. And that is all the books that I have for today. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you did enjoy, please give it a thumbs up down below. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!